Hey everyone, welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina, leadership consultant, logotherapist, and meaningful life coach. And I will tell you this, I think the best leadership style is authentic leadership. And I alluded to this the other day. Authentic leadership actually has set parameters around it that I have studied to, I won't say ad nauseum, but like quite a lot. And so when we're talking about authentic leadership, the best leadership style, and also one of the more recent leadership styles, right? Authentic leadership came sort of out of some scandals in 2001, the Enron scandals, after the fear of 9/11, people were like calling for authentic leaders, like, please give us some real people. We don't have a lot of real in our big leadership positions, right? I think that's kind of why people can respect and like people like Donald Trump or Ben Shapiro, right? They're real. Matt Walsh, they're real. Jordan Peterson, they're real. And truth vibrates on a different frequency. Realness vibrates on a different frequency. I won't get too heavily into it, but I will say that when you have people who are functioning in the most real version of themselves, they're very secure, right? They don't get rattled, really. They're just like, okay, you do you, I'm going to do me. And so I know that we don't love sometimes the more outspoken leaders that are just like calling it as it is, but that is because there is sometimes the truth hurts, right? So let's talk about authentic leadership, because there are specific parameters to authentic leadership, and I won't go into all the different like academic perspective versus practical approach. Like there's always that, right? There's a theoretical way of understanding things, there's an experimental way of understanding things, and then there's like a practical way of understanding things. I have to learn all the things in all those ways, but today we're just going to talk about the 4 main components of what it looks like to be an authentic leader. Okay, authentic leaders, by the sort of textbook definition, they have to be self-aware. Okay, now self-awareness, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was like, everybody has their baggage, everybody has their red flags, everybody has their shit, and the people who think that they don't are the least self-aware people out there, and they probably have the most, right? People who are not self-aware think they have nothing wrong with them. That is not true. That is not true. And so I can always tell someone who is very lacking self-awareness and very inauthentic when I'm like, okay, so what are your flaws? And they're like, well, I don't have any. I don't really know. I've never really thought about it, right? Okay. The hallmark of an authentic leader is that they know their flaws. Like I know hands down the things I struggle with. I'm impatient, I'm impulsive, like I can be a bit impertinent, I'm aggressive. Like these are things that, and again, your flaws, your strength, flaws can always be shifted to strengths, of course. Your weaknesses can always be your strengths, but mostly, those are things I'm working on all the time, very aware of. And so someone who is an authentic leader is self-aware. Component number 1. If you are not self-aware, I'm just going to give you a quick exercise of what you can do. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? These are character strengths, character weaknesses. These are not like, oh, I'm good at math, I'm not good at English. Like that's not it. Okay, I'm talking about your character. Now, why it's kind of hard sometimes to be self-aware is because we don't know our own character. Not really. And so like this is what I do with people in my program, help them figure out in personal mastery who they are, what they want, why they want it, how to get it, why they don't have it. Because what I know that they don't is that the pickle in the jar cannot read its own label. So what I'm telling you to do right now seems really simple. So usually it's not. Usually it's really hard. It's really hard for us to see ourselves clearly. We're like, well, I don't know what my strengths are and I don't know what my weaknesses are. Now, one, you're not self-aware, but two, that is the plague of human being. It's a plague of humankind. We don't know ourselves. We try to figure ourselves out by, everyone else. And then we wonder why we don't know ourselves, why we don't have the things that we want, why we're not happy, et cetera, et cetera. So this is why I love the authentic leadership model, because it focuses on the self as much as it focuses on the followers, the constituents. The number one thing that I have found is that people feel selfish when they focus on themselves. And that is a false premise. It's a false belief, okay? There is nothing selfish about taking care of yourself while you take care of others, right? Mothers are the best example of this. When they are pregnant, they take care of themselves really well because they know they have their baby to take care of. What ends up happening when the baby comes out of them? They stop taking care of themselves. All they do is focus on keeping the baby alive. But the baby still needs them. So they still have to be healthy and taken care of. That doesn't change as we get older. Especially mothers, I tell my mother clients this all the time. I'm like, if you're making your child a sandwich, make yourself a sandwich too. That's what it is to be focused healthily on the self. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking of other people. It just means you're taking care of both at the same time. And the hard thing with parenthood is that, well, I don't have enough capacity to take care of myself and my child. I'm going to take care of my child. And it's like, I understand that, but you're out of balance. It's like, well, priorities. True. But also, you're going to get into this habit. You're going to rewire your neural pathways so that you always put yourself last. And that actually doesn't serve anybody. This is why we've got so many out of balanced families, so much divorce rate, so much this, that, and the other things, because nobody knows how to prioritize properly. And how things shift too. I won't get into it because it's a tough. Being human can be very hard. And self-awareness is one of those hard things about being human. The number one thing I netted in my research, it almost ruined my whole project actually, was people are way less self-aware than they actually think they are, right? So what I found in my research was people were rating themselves really high in one area, and then in a different area, it demonstrated that they were inflating their answers. And so thankfully, any research is good research. Everything tells you about something, but it skewed the numbers because they overinflated here. And so self-awareness is, I think, the hardest of these qualities, of the 4 qualities. I'm on still only number 1, right? Moral perspective is number 2. Internalized moral perspective. Internal meaning I function and focus on these things in this way. I have an internal compass. Bill George is one of the sort of fathers of authentic leadership on the practitioner side, which is to say people who are in not academic circles, right? Bill George was the CEO of Medtronic, and he started talking about authentic leadership in business circles as Avolio and Gardner, who are the seminal researchers on it, started talking about it at about the same time. 2003 was Bill George, 2005 was Avolio and Gardner. And so what Bill George is always saying, which correlates to the research, is that you need a true north. You need values. And what the research says is internalized moral perspective. You need a moral perspective. And what that means is it's not enough to know your values, which most people don't. So that's number 1, right? We lack self-awareness. So with no self-awareness, we don't even know our values. We say we value X, Y, or Z. We don't. Because we, 1, don't know our values. 2, we don't live our values out. And so we can say, I value loyalty, but we're not loyal, right? That was the thing I found out about myself. I was like, I value loyalty so much. And I was loyal to nobody but myself. I was only loyal to me. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not loyal. I'm actually not loyal at all, actually. And because I started to realize that, I was like, all right, let's shift some things, right? Authentic leadership takes radical honesty. radical honesty. This is why people don't do it. This is why it's really hard. This is why, like, it needs to be taught. And so internalized moral perspective is the second thing that demonstrates an authentic leader. Do you know your morals and values? Do you lead by them? And again, because I've studied this, I've formulated a program to help people figure their stuff out and live and lead off these characteristics and principles, right? So know who you are. Part of knowing who you are is knowing what you value. Actually value. Your words and your actions align. Which brings me to relational transparency. Okay, so that's number 3. What it means to be relationally transparent is to be honest with the people you are in relation with. Words and actions align when you are an authentic leader. Okay, words and actions align. And so if you say, I'm going to be here at 10 o'clock, then you are going to be there at 10 o'clock. Or you're going to communicate really well about why you weren't or what's going on. Being transparent. Now, this is a tricky thing. I talked about, and if you haven't seen it, go back. But I've talked about the resources that we have as people and as leaders, right? As people, time, energy, attention, money. As leaders, space, information, and timing. That's just Michelina, theory right there. But information is a really tricky, communication and information is a really tricky thing, because how we tell a story, what we communicate, the words we choose to use, the information we choose to share or not share, that is a skill that most people do not have. Okay, most people overshare or undershare. There's a fear of being seen, there's a fear of being heard, there's a too much, not enough. There's a lot that goes around our language capacity. Not to mention 70% of our language is nonverbal, right? So it's physical. So you can tell what people are thinking based on like their face or body language a lot of the time. So to be relationally transparent, right? That third facet of being an authentic leader is to be very transparent with yourself. And that is why self-awareness is a biggie, because you can't be honest to any degree if you're not aware. So, and I've used this example before, I will use it again. I thought I was being very honest when I was like, oh, I'm the queen of sarcasm. But actually I was lacking self-awareness. I'm not really a sarcastic person. I was a very hurt person that was afraid to share my insights with people, believe it or not. And so it seemed like I was being honest. I wasn't. I was lying to myself. Interrelational transparency is a tricky thing because we are not honest with ourselves. And so we spew out lies without even realizing it because we're lying and deluding ourselves all the time. Yes, this is why authentic leadership is really, really tricky. Now, again, everybody who is the most productive, successful, and well-known tends to be an authentic leader. They are self-aware, they know their moral compass, they are honest and transparent. And then the fourth aspect of being an authentic leader is having the ability to process things in a balanced manner. This is like good discernment, good judgment. So it's not reactive, it's not emotional. It is like, okay, I'm looking at all the pieces on the board and I am seeing objectively in these ways, right? Being an authentic leader requires the ability to process things in a balanced manner and to be objective and to take space, right? Space is one of those three. Take space, comfortable with space, comfortable with self, comfortable, figuring things out. And again, I teach people how to be authentic leaders in my programs, right? This is what I do because I cannot help myself because I am an authentic leader and I value authentic leadership so greatly. I have internalized it. And so anybody who's talking to me, most of the time, they're like, wow, you're really real. Yes, I am. Wow, you know yourself really well. Yes, I do. Wow, you communicate effectively. Thank you. Yes, I do. Like, these are all things I work on under this premise. These are things I teach under this premise because it's so important. And so when it comes to really being an authentic leader, it takes a lot of self-work. It takes a lot of self-work. And what comes as a result of being an authentic leader is confidence. That is like the number one thing, because you get legitimate confidence, not fake it till you make it, not like, oh, I look like I'm good, but I'm not. You get legitimate confidence because you just know who you are. You just know yourself. You get very, 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 very secure. You develop a lot of resilience. Okay, resiliency is like the number one thing we're lacking nowadays. Everybody seems to be lacking resilience, right? And I'll tell you right now, I don't lack resilience. Anybody who knows my history, anybody who knows my past, anybody who knows anything about me knows there's a lot of resilience here. A lot of adversity that has been overcome. And so a lot of what that has helped me to be like able to do is authentic leadership. Like I was learning and growing and doing all the processes for authentic leadership as I was restructuring my reality, as I was regrowing, as I was reworking, putting down new roots. And so authentic leadership is at one of like the base level foundations of like who I am fundamentally at this point. Because while I was relearning all that, I was integrating authentic leadership as I went, right? So confidence and resilience are two of the byproducts of being authentic and leading from that space, right? As a result of knowing who you are, knowing what you want, knowing what you value, knowing what you believe in, and doing all those things, you become very optimistic and very hopeful, right? Those are two other byproducts of being authentic, right? Who wouldn't want to be optimistic, hopeful, confident, and resilient, right? And so authentic leadership, I find, is of all the styles that there are, which I have A, studied, and B, been some of. This is the best one. This is the best one. If you are a Christian, steward leadership coupled with authentic leadership is the best way for the Christian walk. But again, if you're not a Christian, just put that on the shelf or don't even worry about it. Okay. And so I won't get into that today. Steward leadership is a different leadership style that I will get into later on, right? So when you are being your most authentic, which guarantee you don't even know what that is, you don't even know what that looks like, and you've maybe probably never even shown up as that in your life. That's probably the case, because we don't show up as our authentic selves until we are given permission to do so. Most people, most of the time, are trying to push agendas on us without even realizing it. Most people are projecting. Most people expect themselves from you. It's like the things that I have, I want from you. And it's like, why though? Like, you have those things. Like, you don't want them from other people, right? I work hard to not expect me from anybody else because I am me and they are not. So let me expect them from them and me from me. And that takes a higher level perspective, right? And that is why we are here. Change our perspective, change our awareness, change our lives. And in this leadership series, which everybody needs, everybody literally in the world needs leadership training. Literally everybody, all the time. It is like the number one soft skill to lead yourself effectively and lead and influence wherever you go effectively, right? So change your perspective, change your awareness, change your life. This is authentic leadership. I hope it is interesting to you. Like I said, by far my favorite leadership style. This is what I teach. This is what I coach. This is what I can help my clients do, get to: optimism, resilience, hope, and confidence. And so with that being said, I hope that you're liking this Lead to Live series. I hope that it is productive and informative. I hope that it is giving you the self-awareness that we so desperately need, all of us. And if you like what you're seeing here, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. You'll know when I'm coming out with new things. If you are interested in one-on-one coaching or joining the academy, the link's below, but also you can shoot me a comment or find me on my socials and message me there. And I will see you guys on the next video.